So I want to talk about a rhythm change on the rock, which is the hitch kick. The step looks like this. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 4 and 6. It's called a hitch kick. Now, I want to talk about the rhythm change. Normally, we have 1 and 2, 3 and 4. After 4, we go back on 5, a whole beat, come forward on 6, a whole beat, ready to start again. 1 and 2, 3 and 1 beat, 1 beat, 1 beat. If when you get to 4, you hold it for 5, you hold it for 2 beats. 1 and 2, 3 and all of 4, all of 5. Now there's only 1 beat left, it's 6. We're going to do 2 steps on 6. And 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, hold 5 and 6. That's the rhythm. A nice way of practicing so you don't count the numbers, if you get used to saying back to 4. Now, what I mean by that is 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Can you see which leg we are when I say 4? When we do a regular rock, which is 5, 6, we're actually going to come back to here. 5, 6. So this is 6, but really it's 4. If Marky stays on 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, I'm going to come back to 4. If Marky did the rock, back to 4, and I stayed there, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. Marky did it, and I just stayed on 4. So, back to 4 is a nice way of thinking of a rock. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, we're going to go back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. Now, just in general, that's not a bad way of thinking of it, because if you know you get to 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and if you know you're going to have to come back to 4, you're not going to do a really big back rock if you know that you're going to have to come back to where your 4 was. It kind of makes you keep your rocks smaller. So, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. Now, when I say back to 4, what you might hear is me going back on back and forward on 4. But I'm actually saying 3 words. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. I am saying 2, 4, back to 4. But when I'm doing it normally, I ignore the 2. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. I go back on the back, and I'm back here on the 4. The 2 is kind of like extra, not needed. When we're doing a hitch kick, we do the rock on the 2, 4. We don't go back when I say back. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. That will give you good rhythm. Now we'll just do that to music, and then I'll add one last style point. Sometimes good if you're practicing as a couple for one of you to do a regular rock, and you will see that we're both back to the 4. So Marky will do regular rhythm and I'll hold it. Marky will do the delay. Now, we'll turn the music off. One last thing. If you turn away from the hand you're holding just a little bit, when you hit the 4 for the first time, just be looking a little bit to the man's right, the girl's left. And when we say back, face your partner on the back. You're still on the same foot, you're still on the 4. So I'm here on the 4, I say back, I'm facing my partner, and then I do 2-4 still. And I can just do that from a basic. So 1 and 2, 3, and look a little bit out. That's the 4. Now I'm going to say back, still on the 4 foot. Now I'm going to say 2-4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Back, 2-4. You just start with a little bit. Now, as you get better, if this was a little bit, you can actually do a little bit more. Marky did a lot more. So this time we're going to go into a straight line. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now, we're on the outside foot here. Marky's on her left foot, I'm on my right foot. When I say back now, back to 4. And then we can almost put our back to each other. So if this was a little bit, this was a bit more. Now we're going to put our back to each other. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So I'm still on my right leg, Marky's on her left leg. And when we say back, we're going to stay on that leg, back to 4. And that gives the kicking action that they call a hitch kick. But it's still about the timing. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, back to 4. We'll do that to music. It's called the hitch kick.